Joining me now is a Combate Americas fighter who will be competing in this weekend's one-night, 8-man bantamweight tournament this Saturday, November 11th in Cancun, Mexico. Please welcome Ricky Palacios to the program for the very first time. Ricky, how's it going?
Pretty good. How about yourself?
Doing really well. Thank you very much for the time, and just a week out from the fight, and possibly more than just one fight, too. How did you get involved in this tournament? First off, it's obviously a pretty big deal. It's being pretty, it's getting quite the hype. A lot of people are talking about it because one-night tournaments aren't too common nowadays. How did this all come together for you?
I think first of all, I think it was me being with the company since day one. And I guess my aggressiveness in my fights, I keep pushing forward. You know, I'm throwing hands to knock out my opponent every single fight, every single second of the round. And you know, I think, you know, that's what really got me into this tournament.
What are your thoughts in general about competing in a one-night tournament? Because as I said, it's not very common nowadays. Of course, when say Campbell McLaurin, the CEO of the company, was running the UFC and part of the UFC, sure, of course, the tournament format was very common and used, but nowadays, fighters and promotions have moved away from it. What are your thoughts in general about fighting in this type of tournament?
Oh man, I'm really excited. I think it's a great thing. When we first started watching the UFC, it was all tournament style, so it just. I guess it's like going back into the roots and doing this all over again. It's making history. People are going to tune in because it's a crazy, crazy, crazy thing. 3 fights in one night. Just getting in a fight. It's already, that's already crazy itself. And then having eight opponents competing for 100,000, one night, 3 fights. You don't know what to expect but fireworks.
Sure, yeah, it's very true. Do you prepare differently? Has your preparation going into this card been different just because you're not just fighting one time, but you could be fighting up to 3 times, of course, in the first round, then you have the semifinals, and then if you make it that far to the finals, how do you prepare differently? How did you prepare differently for this card because of the fact that you could be fighting more than once?
I kind of prepared the same. I just pushed forward my cardio. Mainly it was my stamina that I pushed more. I'm going to fight the same way. I'm going to go out there, try to kill my opponent, as fast as I can. And if I don't, well, I'm going to be doing the same thing for the next few rounds. If you looked into the bracket or looked into the way the fights are going to turn out, it's first fight, I think it's one round, 5 minutes, then 3 3-minute rounds, the next fight, and then 3 3-minute rounds, the last fight. So at the end of the day, it's really like a championship fight.
Sure.
The same amount of at least 1 minute less, but with more breaks. So, I would say I prepared the same way. I just pushed my stamina. My goal was the same thing: try to knock out my opponent as fast as I can, and get that 100,000. And if anything, get ready for the title shot.
Yeah, and I guess with it being, I kind of forgot that it was the opening rounds were so short and it was all short. And so, cardio shouldn't be an issue because, as you said, it's just basically a championship fight with more breaks. So it should be almost easier than a 25-minute fight.
Yeah, that's, if you look at it, I look at it that way. So, that's the way I see it. And I feel like I'll be ready. I've prepared, great. I think my style plays pretty good in the first fight for sure, and we'll see what happens.
And this is your first time doing something like this, doing a one-night tournament, yes?
Yeah, it's the first time doing something like this. I've never done this before, and as soon as I found out about it, I was extremely excited about it because it's not anybody in their right mind does this.
Right, and of course, your cardio won't be an issue for you, but do you have any concerns going in? Just because even though the time, the amount of fighting you'll actually be doing potentially is no different than, say, a 25-minute title fight, but it's still different because you're fighting 3 different fighters. It's just a different mindset. You're going, one fight, then you take a break, then you get back inside the cage. It's completely different environment and mindset. Do you have any concerns because you're new to this sort of thing? Everybody else is, I would imagine, but nonetheless, it's a new experience. Do you have any concerns, or are you just treating this like a normal fight?
I'm training like a normal fight. There is a concern because it could be 3 different opponents, right? So the difference about this is just the strategy in every fight. When you're in there with the same opponent for 3 rounds, 35-minute rounds, or a championship fight, you're able to study your opponent and try to pick him apart with his weaknesses. Now, on this particular tournament, it's 3 different opponents. You got to figure each opponent out. So that's where it's going to take some time, try to figure it out, and try to push. The first fight, for me, it's pretty much like an all-out brawl. And then the semifinals and the finals, it's where it takes more strategy and technique, to get those victories.
I find it interesting that you say that the first round you favor sort of a brawling style in a way, because sort of the way I look at it, and of course your view on this is much more valid than mine because you're a fighter and I'm not, and also you're part of this on Saturday night this weekend. But I feel like an approach a lot of fighters might take in a one-night tournament like this is they don't want to, go out there and break their hand in the round one. I feel like maybe 2 more patient fights and, quote, safer fights early on in the quarterfinal semis might be better, because I feel like having safer fights early on than having a barn burner in the finals would be better than having a barn burner in the first fight but breaking your hand and no longer being able to continue. Yes, do you agree with that or not so much?
Hey, you're talking to Ricardo Gallero Palacios, man. I'm going in there balls out. So my mentality is my mentality. I understand your point of view, but hey, we got 1 round to try to do what we got to do. Either the guy's going to lay and prey on me, or I'm going to pick him apart with my shots and try to kill him. It's either or. So I got to figure out what I want to do. I got 5 minutes, and you don't know. You don't want to leave this to the judges because the guy moved around a little bit more, had a takedown on me, and I lose the first round, I'm not able to come back the second round and try to kill him or submit him or whatever I have to do. So I got 1 round to try to figure it out. If it goes to decision, what are the judges thinking?
Right. Yeah, I agree. I think there's pros and cons to everything. So I think with it being a 1-round fight in the first round, you definitely, maybe my strategy wouldn't work so well because you'd be too focused on not getting caught per se, or not breaking your hand or whatever, injuring yourself, and then you just realize, 5 minutes is up quicker than you know it, and you haven't done anything. So good point. You just found out, everyone just found out in the tournament who their first round matchups are. You're taking on Carlos Rivera in round number 1. Was it difficult throughout camp not knowing who your opponent would be? Was it tricky? Because some fighters train for their opponents. Some fighters just like to say, I focus on what I can do and don't really worry about my opponents. So I guess 2-part question. A, are you like that? Do you train just for yourself, or do you focus on what your opponent's strengths are as well? And if so, was it difficult not knowing who you'd be fighting at first up until just a few days ago?
Well, pretty much the way I do it is usually when they give me an opponent, I really don't study my opponent until maybe about a week before my fight. I look at, what their strong points are. And that's pretty much it. I really don't sit down and study and visualize. I'm a person even when I see fights on TV, sometimes I'm not good with names and remembering names, but I'm good at technique. I like to look at fights and look at technique, what they're doing, how they're doing it, what's going on. So, when I see a fight, it usually takes me probably about, I don't know, maybe like a fight or 2 that I see from the guy, and just pretty much look at the strong points, and then look at my strong points and his weak points, and then try to determine what I'm really going to go in there. Because really, when you go into the fight, their strategy may change to what they did their last fight. So, you really just got to be well prepared.
So now that you're taking on Carlos Rivera, you found that out 3 days ago to be exact, I believe, on November 2nd. We're recording this on November 5th, just a week out from the fight, less than a week, 6 days. Now, what will fight week look for you as far as prep goes? Are you going to be focusing a lot on your opponent and researching Carlos and figuring out what his strengths are? Or is it sort of a balance? What are you doing fight week as far as prep goes?
Like I said, I think I saw about 2 of his fights, and that's it. I'm ready to go in there and do what I got to do. I'm not gonna be looking at his stuff anymore. Maybe if anything, if I'm chilling in a sauna or steam room, I might look into it. You just have something to do. But other than that, I'm ready to go in there, and I think I already know what I got to do to win the first fight.
Do you look at going in anyone else, or do you just focus on Carlos for now and then worry about everyone else? Say when should you get past Carlos, then you start looking at who you will be facing in the semifinals. Have you looked at the rest of the tournament and gotten sort of a feel for everyone else you could possibly face?
No, to be honest, no. And it's so crazy that I saw my opponent, because I was going to look to everybody's, just a fight or two from everybody. And the first person I chose was my opponent without even knowing I was going to have him first. And I looked through his stuff, and then when I saw the bracket, it's so crazy that I was matched with him. So that's pretty good for me. Other than that, I don't even know who I'm going to, fight next. I know John Castaneda, he's on the other side, but he has great wrestling. Marco's another great kickboxer, Muay Thai fighter. I got, Rojo? He's a great striker, pretty strong. So I've seen some of these guys fight live, and some of them that I haven't.
Interesting. Now, you seem pretty fascinated by the whole tournament format. I think everybody is. That's why their Combate Americas is putting it on. Do you think other MMA organizations, whether it be Bellator or the UFC or I guess PFL, although they're doing their own thing with the league sort of thing, do you think one night 8-man tournaments, or however many people, doesn't really matter, but one night tournaments, would you like to see? Do you think other organizations should use them more often?
I think, Combate is unique. So, should they use them? It all depends if they benefit them. But, we're working with Campbell McClare. He's his mind it's a little crazy. Sure. So I wouldn't think they'll be thinking the same way. Maybe they might be interested in doing it. But I don't know. Do I recommend it? I really don't know. This is my first tournament. How does it play out? Maybe after that I'll be able to answer that question a little bit better, because I've really never been in this situation before. Like I said, it's my first time jumping in the tournament. I know, they used to do it back in the day, and that's why I'm so excited about it, because, we're with the person that created the UFC, the CEO of UFC, started out with tournaments. Now he's Combate Americas owner, and he's doing it again, and I'm just excited, just being part of this.
I wonder if some organizations that just do a very typical how MMA promotions run, the UFC, you have a champion, etc., kind of like Combate, before the tournament this weekend, I wonder if these companies look at the idea of a tournament like this and just don't see it as, a sustainable idea, just because fighters do pull out, fighters do break their hands in the first fight, or do break something or injures their knee or ankle or anything, and we see so many issues with tournaments sometimes. Fighters pull out in the first round, and then you have to have like a guy who lost come back in the final, says it's not as fun. I wonder if that's sort of the reason. Would you sort of agree that could be the reason, or one of the reasons we see them nearly as much in MMA nowadays?
It could be, because some of the questions that I was asking is like, what if you get hurt? What if you get cut? Do they sew you up? Do you fight? What? Some of the questions that I've had, but it could be a reason why they don't do tournaments, because a lot can happen in these tournaments, and if you get hurt, and we're warriors, so we're gonna get hurt, and we're gonna still jump back in there and try to fight like that, especially with the prize of $100,000, and then we might be out for a year or two, and for the company, if you look at it that way, that's not good for them, because they lose a potential fight there, or something they were planning in the future with a certain fighter. So it could also, they could also look at it that way.
Sure, fair enough. Now, of course, the winner of this tournament will pick up $100,000. If you do get past everybody, you fight 3 times, win all of them, you're the tournament champion. What do you do with the $100K?
Oh man, go to a strip club and spend it. No, I'm joking. No. Pretty much, it's hard to be a fighter. hard to live off of funds of your purse winnings. So I really think of investing into a company.
Cool.
And build the foundation I've always wanted for me and my kids, and be part of a franchise that I know is successful, and see what happens from there. That's pretty much the main thing. It's hard being a fighter, hard to live, try to work, run your business, and train. It takes so much, and I think that's I would want to build a business, a base, a platform for my kids. For me, when I'm gone, when I can't fight anymore, funds are coming in, tuition for school, whatever they want to do, we're secure.
I hate to be cliche, but I mean, would the 100K in a way be life changing? Would this change your life for the better? Would it be life changing money?
It is. I mean, I got goals in life, and money is the issue. Money is the issue. I haven't reached a lot of my goals because of funds. So 100K would definitely put me where I want to be faster than I thought, or faster. It just, it'll be awesome. And like I said, I'll be able to reach several of my goals with 100K.
Because of that, do you look at this weekend as the most important weekend in your mixed martial arts career?
Yes, I look at this weekend like, this is the fight that I need. This is the fight that I've been waiting for. This is the fight that my kids have been waiting for. This is the fight that everybody's been waiting for. I mean, I know there's other promotions that pay a lot of money, but 100K right now, I'm especially where I'm coming from, it's a lot of money that I could use and do so much with.
Even if you come up short, say you make it past round 1 and fall in round 2 or any, does Combate pay anybody except for the winner? Will you pick up, say, like $5,000 or $10,000? Do you get paid anything if you don't win the tournament?
We do get paid. I don't know if we're allowed to say numbers or not. That I know of, everybody gets paid the same. So yeah, there is still money coming in.
Is it sort of on track? Again, I don't need, you don't need to tell me exactly how much, and I don't expect you to tell me, but is it sort of like a normal payday? If you take a one-off fight as per usual with Combate, are you getting sort of the same amount of money, or is it lower because, of course, they have to, have 100K ready to go for the winner?
It's average to certain, and it all depends. I mean, I don't know how other fighters get paid.
Right.
So it's interesting because there's still money. Like I say, there's still a purse coming out.
Sure.
So at the end of the day, I mean, you don't lose a lot, but you don't win a lot.
Basically,
if you're out.
Let me word it like this: did you make more money against Chris Avila in your last fight than if you win? If you win one fight this weekend and lose the second, will you make more money than you did in August against Avila, or no?
It'll match up.
Okay.
It'll match up. If I win the first fight and I'll go to the second one and not win the second one, it'll be roughly around the same.
Okay.
So I would be.
Interesting. Eric Perez, a former UFC bantamweight fighter, recently signed with Combate. He is not part of the tournament. Of course, his signing just happened, and the tournament is coming up very quickly. What are your thoughts on his signing in general and the possibility of him fighting the tournament winners sometime next year?
I mean, that's awesome. I mean, Eric Perez is a great fighter. I don't know him personally. Like my last few fights, we talked. He's fought here in South Texas, where I'm from a local league. That's where he started, and my Muay Thai coach is actually friends with him, and Eric Perez had actually invited us to go train with him in Alliance, and for him to be signed with was signed with the UFC, and is coming off of several wins, and then with Combate, I mean, shit, this is big for Combate. That's one. Two, this is big for Combate's fighters because. Whoever goes in there is Eric Perez, and let's say they beat him, or give him a good run for his money. It just comes to see that us Latino fighters, us Mexican fighters, or fighters from Combate Americas has what it takes, to be up there with the highest or the biggest promotion in the world. So, it's, I mean, we don't have to play because we all believe in ourselves. But, when people see the company, pretty much, it's a starting company, they'll probably see, like, Combate Americas, they probably just have, starting fighters. They don't have great fighters. They're not the UFC. They're not Bellator. They're not this. They're not that. But, knowing that we could stand and hang in there with these great guys, or not great, but these fantastic fighters, is awesome. Knowing that they're coming to our league, or I'm going to say our league, but coming to Combate and compete against us is awesome as well. So, that's the way I see it.
Now, you've been a part of Combate Americas for many years. You've had 6 fights for them, and you debuted, I think it might have actually been their debut show in December 2013. I could be mistaken, the date is right, but I'm just not sure if that was their first card. Doesn't really matter. Nonetheless, you've been around in their organization for a long time. I gotta imagine you're happy with them. Is there anything you're not a fan of, or is all good? And also, what are your thoughts on your UFC chances? Is that still something you want as still a young fighter? You're 9-1. You haven't been here forever. Is the UFC still sort of, something you want?
At this moment, how can I say this? I've been with Combate Americas ever since the reality show. That was my first fight for them when I was in the reality show. I fought Matt Waggy, Team Alpha Male. And what can I say? I just signed with Primetime 360, which is Tito Ortiz and George. I just signed with their agency. So pretty much they're going to start guiding me, back and forth with what's to come, what's next. They're going to give me their advice and see where it's at. I mean, for me, I love Combate Americas. I love where I'm at, and I love the company. Like I said, I've been there since day one. Mike Afowitz, a great friend of mine. I respect him. Cameron McClure, he's crazy. Sometimes, has a little bit of loose screws, but he's great, he's a great guy. I look up to him a lot. So right now, I think I just signed a multi-fight deal with him recently. So I'm still with him for the next 2 years. So, but let's see what's out there. I'm not looking, but like I said, I'm already signed with an agency, and they're going to give me their opinion and their advice, and I'm going to go from there. And
you're doing this full time, right? Or do you have a day job?
I have a local boxing gym.
Okay, so you're still in combat sports all day.
Oh yes.
Interesting. And I did hear you. Thank you for bringing up the thing about Tito Ortiz, that you signing with that. I heard you were training with Tito Ortiz. How is that going? And when did that all start?
I actually went to train with Tito Ortiz about 3 weeks ago. I was out there in Huntington Beach. I was training with him, and I was also training at King's MMA. Great experience, great guy. Real humble, respectful, loves the sport. So, I was glad to be out there. He gives you great vibes, and it was a great experience.
Now, this fight is in Cancun. The tournament's in Cancun, obviously, beautiful part of Mexico. Do you plan on sticking around a few extra days, make it sort of a vacation, or are you going right home right afterwards?
I'm going home the next day. They only booked my flight's already booked, so nothing I can do about that part.
I guess no extension. I guess you can extend that.
No, I wish I'll be out there for maybe a day or two. Right. Relax, be at the beach. Eat some good food, and just have fun with the whole. I'm gonna call it a vacation. So. It'll be pretty awesome.
Not many people have business trips to Cancun, if you're being honest.
No, not Cancun, Miami, New York, California. Combate's doing it all.
Perks of being a fighter for Combate. Anyways, Ricky, I do appreciate the time. My last question, of course, you're taking on Carlos Rivera in the first round. I can't get predictions for if you make it to the semis and the finals, because it's just ridiculous trying to predict all that. But the first round, how do you get the job done? Carlos Rivera is your opponent again. How do you get past him and move on to the semis?
Just go out there and be myself. be myself, use my hands, use my footwork, use my kicks in and out, and do what I do and get that finish.
Awesome, Ricky. Thank you very much for the time. It's much appreciated. Best of luck to you this weekend at the tournament. Before I let you go, let my audience know where they can find you on social media, and if there's anybody you'd like to thank or give a shout-out to, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I mean, you can find me on social media, on Facebook, Ricardo El Gallero Palacios, on Instagram, El Gallero 05, Twitter as well, El Gallero 05. I want to give a shout out to my fans, my family, all my supporters, my sponsors, Papi Chula's Barbershop, Rooster's Barbershop. I got Taylor Sports Performance, M&M Audio, Vitamin Shack and Shake. I got Cherry Total Body. They take care of my body. B&B Express. And everybody that showed me all the love, my gym, my friends, everybody that helped me out. Primetime 360, Tito Ortiz, George, everybody out there, thank you for all the love, the support, and all the help.